Well, hello there, and welcome to another one of Arthur's N Gauge reviews. This is not so much of a review, more a fly on the wall, because what I'm having a look at is the Dapol N Gauge signals. These are working signals. This one happens to be an LMS upper quadrant, but there are others available. And I'm having a look at this for the first time, so it's a bit of a fly on the wall, and bear with us. Now, I've already taken the instructions out of the blister pack. They're very clear and very concise. They basically tell us that these operate on AC current from our controller, and there's lots of notes about don't use DC, and all they need is a hole in the baseboard, a 14 millimeters wide hole, and a passing contact switch, like a press button switch that you'd say operate a bell or something like that with, that will operate the signal for you. Inside this thick locating trunk, there's obviously a solenoid which operates the signal through a wire, and also a small circuit board that basically means that you don't need a return switch. So you press your little buzzer once, the signal operates in one direction. You press your buzzer again, the signal operates in the other direction. So I hope to prove that to you as we go along. Now, according tools for the job, it specifies a 14 millimeter hole to be cut into your baseboard. So here's one I got from a local hardware store. I got a brand new one. I got this type because I thought that might cut a cleaner, more vertical hole in my baseboard, and I think having a vertical hole is important when it comes to something like a signal being planted in it. That cost about £1.50. So really, if you're going to put signals on your layout, I think it's worthwhile investing at least that much money, so that you get a clean hole every time. Here's my little switch. I got this from a well-known electrical retailer, and again it's a very simple device, and it cost about £1.50. I'm sure that if you went on the auction sites you could get them cheaper and all the rest of it. Now, thinking about signals in general when it comes to switching or whatever, well, I suppose before we even put a signal on our layout, the best thing would be to actually talk to an ex-BR signalman and ask him where the signals would go and what type of signals would go where. But this being a model railway and this being my first attempt, I'm just going to plant this one onto the railway. Now, the criteria I'm using for the model railway is slightly different than our BR signaller, and it goes something like this: grandchildren will operate this railway. So this signal needs to be somewhere safe. End of story. Where I'm actually going to put it is somewhere in here. I've got a dummy electric one here, and I fancy taking that one out and replacing it with this signal. The wiring, by the way, tells me that the operating wires that go to my little switch are yellow. So I've also availed myself with a coil of yellow wire that I shall use underneath to make those circuits. I also did think, let's talk about DCC and DC, shall we? DCC and these signals, I know nothing about the operation, so here's the expert saying I'm not an expert. Now when it comes to DC, obviously a little mini switch would operate one signal, and these could be put in to your control panel as necessary to enable you to set up a route, rather like you would use stud and probe to set up a route for your points. In fact, on a larger layout, I don't see any reason why, rather than having individual switches, we shouldn't have some modified single stud and probe method operating the routes. Certainly on DC, that would be the way I would look to go in the future. And a Pico probe costs the same as about a single switch, so you're saving a lot of money there. You might want to invest that in a few more switches. If you had a lot of signals on your layout, then why not have an isolating switch or two in there as well, which would certainly improve the length of life of these signals and would mean that you're not forever operating signals when you don't want to. Anyway, enough of that, let's get on with building. So here we are, we're out the box. There are the wires, two yellows for the operating switch, and on this one there's a red and a black for the two power wires. And the first thing that we notice immediately when we put this on the layout is the size of the base. In N Gauge terms, I would say it's massive. How big is it? Well, it's bigger than a plate layer's hut, the base. So we do need quite a bit of space in order to get this in and be able to drill a hole. I know I harp on about packaging, but the packaging, by the way, was very straightforward, and should this go back into storage, it will fit neatly and safely in that little perspex cocoon. So well done Dapol for that. Okay, X marks the spot, making sure there's no wires underneath. Nice and level. In we go. Up the speed. There we have it. Of course, this being N Gauge, dry lichen has gone absolutely everywhere. Anyway, hole drilled, off with the nut, just slides nicely off the wire, feed the wire through, the hole, that little piece of yellow plastic, and making sure our signal is pointing in the direction that we want it to. We'll feed the base down into the hole and then finger tight with the screw to fix it underneath. And actually that doesn't look too bad at all. Maybe a little bit of packing underneath just to straighten it up, but basically we already have a non-working signal, hopefully in a fairly safe right. We're now underneath the layout, and as you can see, there's the stub from our signal coming down, and here are our 4 wires. The 2 yellow wires which are going to go to our control switch, our push-pull, and the red and black which are our AC, alternating current, supply. So now we have to find an AC supply. Now the most common sort of controller I think around at the moment is the Gauge Master, and if you look on the back of a Gauge Master controller, we've got one here. What we have actually here is the AC coming in and the DC going out. Well, that's being powered by a box. There are 2 control boxes, and they are clearly marked on the back with the DC and the AC supplies, so one could quite easily run wires direct to that. If you've got the handheld sort of controller, got one here, again it's very clearly marked on the back, the DC out, and on this occasion the alternating current going out. So there's no plus and minus here really, these signals, because it's not relevant. If you're using the older Hamilton Morgan controllers, lovely old machines that they are, then again on the left hand side there you see the 16 volt AC out sockets. You will need a radio type plug to access those sockets though, but if you know your Hamilton Morgan you'll actually already know that. Okay, let's get wired up.